Hi, I'm Jennifer. I'm a chirology and palmistry practitioner and teacher based in Johannesburg. And today I'm going to talk about the differences between the left hand versus the right hand, or the active versus the passive hand. Stay tuned. Which hand do we read is the frequently asked question of hand readers. And we read both hands. Both hands represent you as you are now, contrary to popular thought, which is that somehow your left hand or your passive hand represents the past and your active hand might represent the future. That is far too simplistic and, in fact, not the case in hand reading. If somebody says they're ambidextrous, the way we determine whether or not they're right or left-handed is we ask them to which hand they sign with or to pick up an item off the table. And that determines then which is their active hand. Now, there's a saying in hand reading that says your active hand represents what you are and your passive hand represents why you are. And really that's talking about the passive hand. Let's assume you're right-handed and your left hand is your passive hand. Your left hand then will show what you are less conscious of, so it's more of the unconscious aspects of yourself. It shows your authentic temperament, and your temperament is how you think, how you act, and how you behave, especially, for example, when you wake up in the morning, what is really authentic for you, not what you show to the world. That would be evidenced more in the active hand. The left hand or the passive hand is also going to aspect your character. And of course, character comes a lot from your conditioned childhood experiences, your moral orientations in life. And passive hand also would show other influences from childhood, such as trauma, physical and psychological predispositions, even certain illness predispositions to certain illnesses even. It's what is your passive hand shows what is behind the scenes. It's what's more inherited, so to speak. It shows more of your latent potential, that which you are less conscious of, and that which is more concealed in your psyche. The active hand, on the other hand, is really what you're more conscious of. It's what you show to the world. It's more like your persona. It's what you project. Your projected personality is what shows up in the active hand. So what shows up also in the active hand is a certain amount of how you cope in life, your coping mechanisms, your general mindset, and to some extent your potential future. So when we think of a timeline as the passive hand representing the past and the active hand representing the future, although that, as I mentioned earlier, is far too simplistic, there is a little bit of a theme of that might run through, especially for those of us who try to read a little bit chronologically in terms of what might be a really most optimal outcome for this person. Now, if the right hand or the active hand shows patterns most likely to continue, then we come to the very key question, and that is, what are the differences between the two hands? And when the hands are very different, it can show quite contradictory tendencies in the person. On the worst side, on the unredeemed, if you like, the sort of underside of the coin, this could aspect a certain amount of instability in a person even. But on the positive, especially if your active hand is showing really strong and nice clear markings, and your passive hand perhaps is very messy and lots of islands and difficult markings, it shows a progressional trend. So in other words, that what happened in the past somehow is overcome, and that you are able to really go forward very positively in your life and in a strong way. If the reverse of that is true, for example, if you're right-handed and your right hand shows a complete mess and your left hand is showing nice strong clear lines and markings, then there would be a more regressional trend, and certain formative influences have, or rather current influences have made it very difficult for you for whatever reason, and that would be explored in the conversation, in the reading, as to why it is that you, the person, the client, is, let's say, less equipped to cope with their lives in the current time. Just to recap a little, we're looking at both hands. We are looking for differences in the two hands. We consider that the left hand or the passive hand represents why the person is, whereas the active hand represents what the person is. So there's the unconscious and the conscious respectively. The formative influences are going to show more in the passive hand. What the person shows to the world, their persona, their projected personality, shows more in the active hand. The person's character and temperament will show more in the passive hand. And the big thing is, of course, that in the ideal world, we want both hands to be at least, if not the same, at least similar in terms of the markings and the features. When they're not that closely similar, then there is quite a distinctive difference between what the person projects and what the person hides. That's it for today. I hope to hear from you in terms of questions, comments, and be very grateful if you'd like and subscribe and share with your friends. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye for now.